morning or good evening, especially for our global friends and customers and partners in Europe. So what I plan to do is basically just like my title says, is that it's about enterprise control and cloud agility. What I like to share with you is basically to show you the convenience of an on-prem storage plus cloud economics and the benefits that you'll get out of that. So hopefully we'll be able to address, and I think I'm very confident that Zadara business model will be able to address the pain points, the top three pain points that was highlighted during the quick poll about regulation and compliance, data growth, which is always growing, and high cost related to that. And basically, because of the public cloud, there are concerns about security. But before that, I'd like to give a brief presentation of SAN Solutions, especially for those people who have not heard of us, so that we could give you who we are and what we do best. So we've been in business. We've been in this part of the region for 20 years right now, operating across mostly South Asia with headquarters in Singapore. Before the pandemic, I used to travel every other week in other cities like Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, as well as Thailand. But right now, I'm really pretty much grounded for almost a year right now. We started as a systems integrator and a reseller of tier one enterprise storage like EMC, HPE. That's the reason why storage is actually in our DNA. But 7 years ago, sometime 2013, we pioneered locally, at least we pioneered managed services by offering business continuity and data protection around backup and disaster recovery, but delivered as a fully managed service. So when we met Zadara sometime late 2016 with their storage as a service model, we thought it was a natural fit in able to extend our offering, get more customers at the same time to complement our existing business, especially our backup and a DR. And basically, it allows us to stop, investing on those expensive storage and made our offer much more competitive. Market-wise, we have a very narrow focus on the enterprise and data center. That's why we are actively in the midst of the shift or the transformation of the enterprise, like what's happening in Union Bank, as they embark in modernizing their infrastructure, data, and application. And just like what Andrew shared with us earlier, is that the COVID-19, somehow flattened or if not decreased the budget, but somehow it's accelerated digital transformation or at least a catalyst. So the partnership that we had with Zadara has made the transformation journey together with our customers a lot easier and much more exciting. So what you see here in this slide are Zadara's three fundamental pillars. So since its founding in 2011, so 9 years ago, they've been in business already for 9 years, the founders actually wanted to position their offering to be an enterprise storage but delivered purely as a service, actually started in the public cloud. It should be able to be at par or equal, if not better, right, than most traditional enterprise storage like EMC and HPE. In addition to that, they wanted to have all of the enterprise features that you expect from your enterprise storage, like what you see here in the left pillar: large core, big memories, flash, hard drives, encryption, etc., etc. So those are all done. But in addition to be able to compete or go to toe-to-toe with these storage vendors, Sadara actually would like to exceed or excel in two key areas. So as we move to the right, so from the first line of code, okay, Sadara wanted the storage to be fully elastic. So it should be able to flex and to dimension. Users should be able to expand and contract capacity and performance on the fly. So most storage allows you to actually flex by adding capacity, but contracting in most cases in general they don't allow you to do that. So that is really a big plus factor with the Sadara business model, and that's basically saves you a lot of cost. At the same time, it's not only storage that you'll be able to flex up and down, but also on performance. And this is, I think, something very unique to Sadara, including performance. So for example, if we ship to you 150 terabytes of storage in your location and you only consume 50 terabytes, so you only pay for we only charge you for the 50 terabytes, or what we call pay by the drink. The rest of the 100 terabytes will just be sitting in the wings, ready to go anytime. So let's say suddenly, like what Henry Aguda said, they didn't expect some surge or actually increase in the usage of their digital channel, or basically you're entering a what you call a peak demand, and you need to ingest more data during this period. So capacity and performance is always available because we guarantee at least 30% over provision. So it will be in your location, in your data center, but you're not paying for it. And it is an over provision of the right mix, making sure that those resources that we deploy in your data center are something that you would use. Let's say after a certain period, if the peak demand has lapsed or has expired, you can still crank it down or even hibernate unused resources, saving you tons of money. Hibernate means you can actually shut down the controller of those storage, especially for operations which are not operating 24 hours a day. Let's say back office, financial, etc., so that you don't have to pay for unused resources. Again, that's a plus, right? Compared to other general purpose storage. Another plus that I like to mention here is that we also provide periodic upgrade of the hardware and software for free to keep your storage in step with the latest technology. So for example, we are currently upgrading the switches, which are actually 40 gig Mellanox switches, to 100 gig Mellanox switches, right? So high performance Ethernet switches will now be deployed on our existing customers, which are actually only in under subscription for maybe 2 or 3 years, right? So we don't have to wait for 5 years or 10 years to really upgrade those machines. Some of our customers are actually requesting that we replace their current flash with NVMe flash, which are much faster and much cheaper. Another plus is that we do this with almost zero or minimal disruption. And we call this actually storage immortality. So it's always up and running. That's the reason why Sadara is one of those few companies who are able to put a guarantee on those SLA. Now, you try to compare this with traditional on-prem storage, they cannot really be scaled down. And performance is fixed depending on the rigid appliance that you purchase, and the storage will remain the same for that period. If you actually sign up for 3 years leasing, 5 years leasing, or your life cycle is about 5 years, that machine will never really change. And then at the end of the life cycle, right, it will reach an end of life. You need to do a refresh, forklift upgrade, migration of data, which is costly, complex. At the same time, it's very risky. Now, last but not the least of those areas where Sadara would like to excel and exceed is that we wrap this up, Sadara wrap this up with a proactive 24 by 7 fully managed services. Proactive meaning down the road, right? If we see something about to happen that will cause some disruptions or downtime to your operations, we fix it right away. So a simple things like if we see that you're running out of volume, etc., your volume is getting filled up with data, we just increase it right away. Okay, and these are the same people who develop. So expert management means these are the same people who develop the storage manned by 4 network operating centers around the world, basically following the sun. So that's the way they guaranteed. If you go to their website, they're one of those few companies and put it in writing that able to guarantee 100% SLA. Of course, given the condition that you will allow us to monitor not your data, but the entire infrastructure. So that's Zadara's genesis from day one, fully featured, fully elastic, and fully managed. So everybody has a secret sauce, and here's Zadara's secret sauce. So Zadara's storage is based on the award-winning patent software called BPSA, which stands for Virtual Private Storage Array. So every BPSA is actually a storage array. It is actually based on software-defined architecture running on top of high-performance x86 servers. It was designed to be a multi-tenant, multi-architecture, but each tenant actually remains private. So the BPSA, which are array in itself, will have their own dedicated resources. Just like your traditional array, they will have a controller, maybe a cache, flash, hard drive, and own network. So the best testament of its privacy, like I said, it's a multi-tenant. You can run as many BPSA as you want, like what Henry shared with us a while ago, the flexibility of that one. But each tenant, each BPSA is actually a private. And the best testament of that privacy is, like I said a while ago, is you can hibernate the controller of that BPSA, especially for non-24 hours operation. You cannot do that on a non-multi-tenant storage because the other users or the other business unit or other customers, if you are a service provider, which actually sharing those disks will be very much affected. So that's another plus as far as Zadara is concerned. And then you can provision, like I said, as many BPSA as you want. And then BPSA is a multi-architecture. It can have any type of data, any protocol, any location. So it's location agnostic. So BPSA can be block, file, or object storage running on the same physical infrastructure. So actually eliminating those storage silo. So a good example, one of our biggest clients, I think right now we have already deployed about 2 petabytes of storage, right? We started actually about 3 years ago. They just signed up another 3 years extension, about 400 terabytes with 6 storage nodes, and the composition of those storage, that 400 terabyte is 60% flash and 40% hard drive. Before Zadara, they have standard storage array, enterprise storage arrays of various models, and they have 21 spread across 2 data centers. With Zadara, we're able to reduce the footprint from 21 to 2 to 3 racks, right? And still running about 20 plus BPSAs as we speak right now. So that's tons of savings in co-location space, power, and cooling. So that's one way to reduce the cost. It's not only on the per gig, per hour, etc., but also on the operations. Another example is that what they did is that they can also configure, let's say, a BPSA, right, as an all-flash array so that you don't need to purchase dedicated all-flash array. It only adds to the silo and then a lot of idle capacity sitting idle in there. Or you can use high volume and lower cost object storage, BPSA, for your backup and archiving. And I think this is what Henry Aguda and the Union Bank people are actually seeing, right? Being able to tier data across high performance, low latency applications. And when they don't need that, they can actually move it and tier it to lower cost, high capacity. Over a span of 4 years since we partnered with Zadara in 2016 in the Philippines, we help customers get out of that rigid, very rigid 3 to 5 years capex cycle, constant migration, and downtime. And since this is a fully managed service, you can deploy your people to do more strategic tasks, managing infrastructure. There's nothing transformational about that, etc. Right? So the bottom line here is that BPSA can dramatically reduce storage silos, if not totally eliminated, deliver lots of cost savings to the company. Our current customers are saying that they're actually seeing 50% lower TCO compared to traditional capex or financing way of purchasing storage. So last year, in addition to the storage as a service, this is a new service that we are actually introducing right now in the market called Zadara Compute, and it will sit on top of our storage as a service. It is a private cloud, and basically you will say private cloud is already a very crowded market with various hyper-converged saying this is their private cloud, either running their own hypervisor like Acropolis from Nutanix, or most of them are actually offering, if not a KBN, it's basically running the traditional VMware that we are all familiar with. So the main advantage or feature that we have on our private cloud is that it is 100% API compatible with AWS, and it's really purpose built. The intention is a purpose built for IT teams committed to delivering a public cloud experience on premise. So just like AWS, you will be enabled to provision an EC2 compatible cloud within your data center or to an edge or even a remote location, especially for countries where there are no AWS region like the Philippines. So that addresses somehow the compliance, data sovereignty, which are actually part of the pain points. So with this, you can effectively address and eliminate egress and egress costs. So that's the cost that we have in the public cloud. Performance issues because it is closer to the data. And like I said, compliance and regulatory concerns. At the same time, while still championing your organization's cloud adoption. So the feature that you see in this slide is what you normally expect from a public cloud experience. Self-service, predefined and fully customizable EC2 instances. If you look at Zadara's website and when we do a proof of value, you will see that the EC2 sizes, medium, large, small, etc., are very much the same as AWS. We'll be rolling out more services in the future, like database as a service, especially if you don't have a good DBA administrator. So database as a service will take out the pain of managing a database. And then container as a service as well as Kubernetes so that you can actually start modernizing your application from those monolith to actually microservices. I suggest you watch out more for Zadara's announcement in the near future. So to wrap up, is that with the new Zadara compute, network, and storage, we now offer a complete cloud experience on-prem, following the same agile and fully managed model. This new offering allows you to deploy, again, across any locations that you want. It could be an on-prem, it could be a hybrid to your managed service provider, or even a multi-cloud. Remember, nothing is a one-size-fits-all, and multi-cloud is actually not a destination, but what we normally call best execution venue or best experience, similar to what Henry is doing in Union Bank. They run it on-prem, they run it on the cloud, whichever actually fits the demand right now or the requirement. But the trend that we are seeing right now, even though Andrew said, while the budget is flat, they can see, the adoption to the cloud is increasing. And we've seen that, companies like Microsoft, Azure, Apple are actually reporting, despite the COVID-19, which has affected a lot of companies, are actually reporting record revenues and record profit. But what we're seeing right now, despite all of these billions of dollars in prediction that cloud will just continue to grow, there will be tons and tons of on-prem. That's the reason why a lot of these hypercloud has also actually introduced their on-prem, Azure with their Azure Stack, AWS with the Outpost, etc. So the trend that we are seeing that there will be still a lot of on-prem deployment because of the pain points that you just, you all mentioned: compliance, security, latency, and what we're seeing actually is repatriation of data from public cloud back to on-prem. And I think we're looking at one application that Union Bank is running on AWS, and they're basically seeing a lot of cost. We call this actually cloud hangover. So after consuming too much cloud, it is like the hangover experience after a night of revelry with too much alcohol, and that's going to happen. So in my 30 years in IT, I've never seen a company like Zadara, which is actually very customer-centric. That's why their success, our success, my success, my son's success as a service provider is always tethered to your success. So thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation. If you have any question, right, and you want to have a deeper discussion on what we've seen, we also offer proof of value, some POC, etc., etc. All you need to do is contact Sanj, you can email us at marketing@sanj.com. So thank you very much.